Oh, battery's dead.
Battery's dead.
I'm recording.
Since the beginning of time, many powerful nations have discovered the power of the rifle. One is to protect themselves, or two is to affect other people. But I want to focus on American rifle evolution. My reason being, without evolution power, this world would not have the technology that we have today. Many time periods of our evolution occurred. Surprisingly, one of them was at the beginning of our nation's history, and later on in the 1800s, the 1900s, and modern day into the future. I want to start back to my first point, into the beginning of our nation's history. In the book, The Recreation of the American Long Rifle, it goes into great detail of how the basic setup of a flintlock was. As you can see, in that holder there, you'd hold a flint, you'd have powder, black powder, that pan right there, and that would go down. And when you pulled the trigger, the flint would hit that pan, and that'd create a spark, which would ignite that black powder to propel your ammunition. But the problem with that was the rate of fire was 1 shot per minute standard, depending on how fast you could load it, and it wasn't very accurate. One reason being is because, if you show right there, the barrel was all smooth. This created a very lack of inertia between the barrel and the ammunition, which just kind of threw it out there just wherever it wanted to go. And then we created the rifling. As you can see on the right, this rifling had grooves inside the barrel, of which, when the bullet would be fired out from the black powder, the bullet would grab the grooves, creating a spin, which would create greater accuracy and distance on the shot. But however, the downfall of this was, in order for that to work, you had to have the bullet so compact against it for it to work. So it's even more harder to load than without the rifling. So, the creation of the patch. Yes, it doesn't look very significant, but this increased the rate of fire so much. What most people would do is, with this circular patch, many people would just kind of throw it in their mouth, chew on it, so you could get like wet. You put your ammunition on it, and this would increase the smoothness of putting the ammunition down the barrel and keeping it compact with the rifling to further improve the shot. Then, as time went on, people got tired of this because it wasn't very effective, and they still used this until the mid-1800s. Then, as the 1800s increased, a new kind of rifle was created. They call it the repeater, which basically means it can fire multiple rounds in a quick amount of time. Some examples of that: the Henry, also known as the Golden Boy, and the Spencer. Now, these were basically lever action, which would mean that the lever, you open it, which would take out the shell, and then you close it, which would have an arm to put the shell back into the chamber and would be ready to fire again, as you see by the hammer on the top. The benefits of this was it could have multiple rounds in a quicker amount of time, with still the rifling to increase distance, power, and accuracy. And during this time also, we created the new shell. An example of this shell would look like this. It was a straight shell, which the bullet would be on top of this and be full of powder in the bottom. And they'd ignite that way and propel that bullet out that way. The benefits of this is that, because with the muzzleloader before, you just kind of throw powder in there and guess if it'd be right or not. with this, you're guaranteed the right amount of powder, the right bullet, and the right distance. But the reason why it is straight like that is because the bullets back then, they were standard 45 caliber. That was just standard. Occasionally there was a couple oddballs here and there, but basically it was that. Then the first semi-automatic rifle came, made by a man named Ritter von Mannlicher, or Mannlicher.
Mannlicher.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like he's American, but he just showed up, and it's called the Model 8 Remington. Now, it was a good jump into the evolution of the rifle, but there's downfalls to it because it was so expensive that hardly anyone could afford it, so very few people had it, and the weight, it was just such a heavy rifle, but I guess you gotta start somewhere. Then as we increased, we went back to the repeaters, which created the bolt action. The first American bolt action rifle were the Springfield series. Of course, they were made by an American general named Springfield, and there's various different models. All of them are basically 30-06. And as you can see, there's not very much difference between the models. Some of them just have covers around the sights, others are just more smooth, different kinds of bolts and all that. Each style increased the rifle's dependability and its accuracy. Also, during this time period, they improved the shell, which would further look like that. That's a rough drawing. But this, and the reason for this is because with the other one, it was just straight, which the powder could expand and not have that much power into it. When the powder exploded, all the force went directly behind the bullet, which again increased power, distance, and accuracy. Then, guess what? We went back to the semi-automatic. This one was the M1 Graham, made, of course, by John Graham. This rifle had clips, and it was powered by the semi-automatic, which was originally used, but it increases dependability and a lot better. This was a standard rifle in the American Army during the 1940s, such in World War II. Then, again during this time period, we created the fully automatic rifle, which was known as the Thompson Tommy gun typewriter. Many different names for this. This was dependable. Well, it was an increase in the automatic. What? The reason why this wasn't is because it was so heavy. Again, you gotta start somewhere, I guess. It was extremely heavy. This was for trench warfare. It wasn't very accurate, is because it's a handgun shell, which the max distance it travels 25 yards, pretty accurate. So it wasn't very dependable. And then the 1960s came along. And as you can see, we created the AR-15. In the book that I got this resource from, Antique Guns, it explains how this weapon works. It explained why it was used and how more dependable it was, because they used a more lighter metal than what they did back in the 40s. And they increased, again, its dependability by using the adjustable stock, the kind of sights that protect sights so you don't have sun glare and all that. and an easier trigger. Then came along the M16. Yes, it doesn't look much different, but it is. You can tell by the increased capacity of the magazine. It's longer and it has more adjustable stock so you can increase it farther and more in for the personal use of the way the shooter is, the way he's built and all that. And as we continue on today, America continues to improve our weapons to protect ourselves and to protect other people. In conclusion, those are the many ways that our American rifles have increased the world protection and ourselves